Hey friends, welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. And I'm wondering, have you been saving up your pennies? And well, we don't have pennies in Canada anymore. Have you been saving up your nickels, maybe, in the hopes of getting something really nice for Christmas, either for yourself or for somebody else? Take a look at this knife. This is the BRS Integral EON. It's part of their e-volve series. Titanium integral frame and M390 stainless steel blade. This is not a budget knife. This knife was sent to me by BRS. Thank you very much, guys. And we're going to take a good look at it. It's $289 for the titanium gray version. And this awesome green is in much more limited numbers. This guy's $309. These are American dollars, of course, as I always use on this channel. So if you're interested maybe in buying something like this, maybe just checking this video out, something unusual for Canadian Cutting Edge, stick around. The review's coming right now. This thing started off in a box, of course, but inside that box was this. It's a zipper pouch, well-made zipper pouch, man-made materials, strong. It's a durable case. Foam inside, the knife inside. Under the foam here, there's their card. This way, I had it upside down there. And talk about attention to detail. Check that out right there. You're going to see that again. e-volve, Blade Runner Systems, and then information about the knife right there. You got a nice e-volve sticker and microfiber cloth. So, some nice touches there. And the zipper, I didn't show before. It's got a nice little rubber handle on it, which I like. My hands are getting older all the time and a little bit arthritic. I have to start off this video by giving a huge thank you to Edward, the CEO of Blade Runner Systems. And this is their e-volve line of knives, the EON from their e-volve line of knives. It's an integral knife, the EON Integral, and titanium. You can get it in gray, which is very common in titanium, or this anodized green. It's got a slightly kind of mottled look to it, which is very attractive in my opinion. It's not just a consistent solid green color everywhere. And slightly different shades, like the hardware here, the pivot screw cover that covers the stop pin down in there. That's a very slightly different green color, and yeah, zero issues with that whatsoever. Pocket clip, also titanium, one piece milled, and it's actually a very good pocket clip. It's got good retention. It's not too tight. It's got that nice ramp there to guide your pants pocket into your pants pocket. Let's compare the size before we get too far ahead of ourselves with the Ontario Rat 1, like we always do. So here we go. There she is. Put those two guys next to each other and line up those pivot pins. And you can see, blade length is from the pivot to the tip just a tiny bit shorter, and from the tail just a tiny bit shorter as well. Not bad at all. And of course, you've got more cutting edge than the Ontario Rat does. We've got a nice drop pint. I don't know, I could use a pint, I guess. A drop point blade, swedge here. The swedge is stone washed. The main bevel is stone washed, and the flats have that nice brushed look to it. This is M390 stainless steel, which is a good stainless steel. It particularly takes a very good mirror edge, and look out for that video. It'll be another 1 minute video like I did with that Samsung the other day, where I show you the nice mirror edge that I got on this knife. At least I'm confident I'm going to get one. We've got a nice opening here, sort of a triangle shape, and it's got nice beveled edges. Well, spine of the blade also has beveled edges. Also, sharpness choil here, it's also just lightly chamfered. The plunge is sort of rounded. It's almost on a diagonal, but it's rounded, and it's the perfect size sharpness choil for this plunge. The end of the sharpening ends just before the plunge begins, which means you can easily sharpen the knife right to the end without getting into the plunge and sliding your stone across the edge of it and creating a bit of a mess in here. So that's very well done. The flipper, let's take a closer look at that now. It's got 3 little jumps right there. You see that? Just slightly chamfered, so there's no sharp edges on it. Other than that, it looks really, really well done. It matches this concave section very well. You can just rest your finger up here, and when you're ready to pull the trigger, voila. Very good detent on here. Super smooth action with those ceramic ball bearings in there. Lockup, since titanium doesn't lock up next to steel very well, they've got a stainless steel lock bar insert with a detent in there. And of course, they had to attach it from the outside because there's no way to get a screwdriver through the titanium. Oh, hold on a second. I just realized during editing that I didn't tell you guys what integral is. And since a lot of you guys are budget knife people, you might not have seen an integral knife. An integral means all this green stuff, minus the pocket clip, is one piece of metal. It's one piece of titanium. There's no seams. They didn't weld anything. It's not like other knives where they can take off the one side or either side, and then they can screw in on the side of the frame lock arm for the lock insert. They can totally hide the lock bar insert, and you wouldn't see it. Integral, that is a big deal. It's not easy to do. It takes a lot of metal. It takes way more titanium to make an integral than 2 thin slabs and maybe a backspacer, sure. But this is one thick piece, and then they had to mill out all that stuff in the middle, and that all turns into scrap dust. Let's get back to the video. I do wonder if they could have put the detent ball on that piece of steel without drilling a hole all the way through. I don't know the engineering behind it. I don't know the specifics of what they need to do, but I think it would have been quite cool if they could have just drilled it, 2/3 of the way through that piece and then put the detent ball in the back. Nicely, they chamfer it right there. And one of the things I really like about this knife is they made this match. See how this is a nice smooth line here? They made it match very, very well. And so the lock comes up, and then, the curve just continues along the back end of the blade there on the tang, and then up again. Very well done. You've got just a little bit of chamfering done on the inside of the lock bar insert so that your thumb can get into there and easily disengage the lock. That's very well done. They took off just enough to make it work very well, and not so much that it's ugly. So I really like that. This is a design, I should have said this much sooner. Elijah Isham designed this knife. It's very much Ishamish, if you will. Just trailing back, and then you've got this concave section milled out here, and then this one's also concave, and then you've got the same kind of thing here, and then it's more narrow, so that makes it thinner here. Helps your hand just sort of wrap around. And at the end of this sort of triangle theme, it repeats itself back here. And that's your lanyard hole. So it's inset, so if you do use a lanyard, it doesn't have to stick out very far. It won't bulge up. Well made. Pocket clip is right side only, and let's actually see how well it goes into a pair of pants. Wants to climb over immediately. Yeah, let's move this up a little bit now. and slides over, has a good amount of retention there, bottoms out, and yeah. In this case, I don't want a super deep carry knife. I want this to show off that I've got something special. Oh, I had to go deal with my nice little dog, and I forget what I was trying to say. It looks great. I really like the look of this. It fits nicely, holds good retention, not super hard to get out, and it stays in very well. I'll say at this point, I'm not going to do a teardown of this knife. Nick Shabazz has got a teardown video, which is, not very long at all because it's very simple. It's a simple teardown. And I'll put a link to that down below the video, and you can watch that if you want to. Let's go over all the sizes, dimensions, and that kind of information on this knife. And this will be on the screen while I'm talking about those things. The weight of this knife, when I weighed it, 126 grams, 4.45 ounces. The sharpness of this knife, 145 bests from the factory. That's good. 200 and less is considered sharp. The cutting edge length, 9.12 centimeters, 3.59 inches. The blade length, tip to the closest spot on the titanium, 9.34 centimeters, 3.677 inches. The blade thickness, 3.98 millimeters. That's 0.1565 of an inch, over an eighth of an inch. Nice solid piece. The blade depth, I measure an inch up from the sharpness choil, so approximately where my thumbnails are, 2.5 centimeters, 0.984 of an inch. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, at that same spot right there where my thumbnail is, 0.48 millimeters, 19 thousandths of an inch. Usually I like my EDC knives to be about 20 thousandths of an inch, but M390 can certainly handle being less than 20. Now the grind angles. Now the grind angle is very consistent from side to side, almost exactly. It's 0.1% different. You've got one angle here, and then it transitions, and it's a different angle for the last inch and a half. 21.7 degrees, and then it goes down to 18.7 degrees. And this side started at 21.8, and it went down to 18.6 degrees. So very, very similar. The grind angle did change, so the person who was sharpening, did pivot the knife a little bit this way while they were sharpening it, but they did it consistently from side to side, which is very rare to see. And, well, this is a more expensive knife, and so I really like the way it's sharpened. I'm probably going to sharpen it to about 18 degrees all the way across. And back to the dimensions. The handle length is 11.58 centimeters, 4.558 of an inch. The grip area, let's just say it's about a little over 10 centimeters, right around 4 inches, which is plenty for large hands, medium hands. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, 1.33 centimeters, 0.524 of an inch. So that's very good. I like that. The knife depth and the depth in your pocket. Now, I usually don't count flipper tabs, and so the knife depth is the same, open or closed, and that is 3.29 centimeters, 1.295 inches. So that's great. Total length of this knife when the blade's deployed, 20.917 centimeters, which is 8.235 inches. So I really, really like the size of this. Some of you are wondering, what's the price of this thing already? Well, the gray one is $289 US, and the green one is $309 US. You can buy it directly from BRS, but White Mountain Knives also has it in stock, both colors. I think the extra few dollars for the green is certainly worth it. If you don't like green, you maybe just want the all gray version, but I really, really like this. And I haven't double checked at White Mountain Knives if you can get 10% off on this knife, but I believe you can. I like how nicely understated this is. Did you notice there's no writing anywhere? All you get is this little E right here. That's from the e-volve series. The rest, if you're buying an e-volve series knife, you just need to know what it is. And I like that. I don't think knives should need to advertise what they are in great big letters. Let's go over the pros and the cons on this thing now, because I did actually find what I think are a couple cons. The pros, this blade shape is awesome. It works for slicing very well. It's thin enough behind the grind that it does a very good job slicing. You've got a nice pointed tip, which is good for piercing if you need to. You've got a thick stock of steel, which makes it strong and durable. You've got high-end, very clean steel, very small particles, which help you get that nice mirror edge. But even when they were sharpening, they used a very fine stone, so you see very fine little lines along the sharpening. Shape is good. It's comfortable. Even reverse grip is very comfortable. Fist grip, saber grip, sort of a pinch grip, everything. It just is very comfortable. Right and left hand, no problem. Although it is just right-handed, I don't think they make a left-handed version of this knife. Some more things that I like. Blade centering. Pretty much perfect, isn't it? Detent. It's ideal. The detent is awesome. Light switch method works very well. Lockup is perfect. There's enough engagement to give rock solid lockup. The flipper with that jipping is ideal, but you can't do the push button method. If you try doing that, it just doesn't work. You do have to use the light switch method to deploy the blade, which I don't mind at all. I don't think I can. Maybe somebody can use the Spidey flick kind of thing underneath to make the blade deploy, but I certainly can't. The pocket clip looks great, well made, very comfortable. That's a very well done lanyard hole. For people that don't want lanyards, it doesn't look ugly or out of place. And those that do want lanyards, it's well made. I didn't talk about these three little sort of chevron designs on the spine. That does help just get a little bit of grip for your thumb. If you're going to do some reaching stuff, I put my thumb right there and, I stabbed cardboard. And it's a very secure way to grip and get you extra reach. And it's a nice, light, comfortable knife. Under 4.5 ounces for a full-size folder. There's nothing wrong with that. How about the cons? Or what would I change? One thing I would change is I don't like button screws when they're recessed in. Now, I've mentioned this on other videos too, for cheaper knives. And so I really hoped, would like to see flush screws here instead of, button screws that are recessed. Even this one here, it's a button screw. It's been partly recessed. A nice flush screw would look a whole lot better. A button screw here looks quite nice. It's sort of like a drop shape, and so it's nicely rounded, and that's nice and organic. And there are round things, there's round in here, and there's the round in the sharpener's choil. So round isn't out of place on this knife. I just don't like recessed button screws. And that's the extent of my cons. Now that is very tiny. I wouldn't doubt it if there's aftermarket screws that I could get for this. The rest are all pros. I don't dislike anything else about this knife. So yeah, if you've been saving up your money for a knife, maybe you want to consider this one. And thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. It's getting close to the end of the month. If you want to join my Patreon crew, I would very much appreciate any support that you give. Usually I have budget knives that are, $60 and less. But this being a very generous gift directly from Blade Runner Systems, I very much appreciate this. I give my Patreon supporters a draw every month. One of them gets randomly selected, and they get to choose one of the knives that I reviewed in the previous month to be their very own. For the end of November, for the beginning of December, this knife will not be in that list. Sorry, guys. I'm keeping this for myself. So thank you, everybody, for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Bye for now.